Hi friends, this is Mangal and Muralidharan talking from India. Friends, it's quite important today to talk about self-efficacy among our learners. Majority of us do ask this question that we do really understand self-esteem, which has got a specific role to play, uh, learning potential. It increases the learning capabilities. It does really, provide you good self motivation because learner motivation is totally dependent on learners' self esteem, the way they perceive themselves or the kind of mental image they have that they are capable of doing something on their own. But this idea of self efficacy is rooted in the concept of self assessment. See, one has to assess oneself all the time. At the same time, one has to give the scope of verifying how far one can make use of the skills and knowledge that one has. In other words, it's not so easy for someone to explore new dimensions of what one is capable of. Every one of us is capable of doing something new on our own. So self-access learning, or I would call it self-education, is rooted at the heart of self-efficacy. And this very idea of self-efficacy is also about coming to terms with one's own strengths and weaknesses, understanding one's own self-assessment, and having faith in one's skills and knowledge can alone possibly change the way you behave. In other words, your attitude, your behavior, your character, your learning style, your belief system, all these are interconnected. See, the way you influence how you learn, or the way you influence how you respond to something, is primarily psychological. That is why we say your own self-estimation about your abilities, skills, knowledge, etc., should be considered a very important turning point in self-reflection. In other words, reflective learning is very important for all of us. When we reflect on what we do and what we do not do, we get to know how to really do some course correction. If we go wrong, we can, retrospect and change. If we are incapable of coming to terms with what we do, then we have to change the way we think. We have to change the way we behave. And sometimes we have to even revisit the strategies and techniques that we employ to channelize our energies. So learning is not just learning to think, it's also learning to influence our own behavior, our own attitude. And it is also learning to explore new opportunities and travel to the uncharted territories of mind. And sometimes, the greatest skills are born out of it. In other words, you identify your talent and you work on your talent. Well, only then you can enrich your talent. But the association of the talented people around you matters a lot for you. That is why we say, mindful of whom you get associated with. Because if you are associated with the people who are highly talented, you tend to enrich your talent. But that doesn't mean you are primarily improving because of those talents that they have. No. You have a certain innate skills. But when you travel towards these uncharted territories of mind, you understand how effective you are, what type of changes you could possibly create within yourself and outside yourself. And you are also capable of, enriching your focus, enhancing your mindfulness, and strategizing, the way you respond to something, etc. So I would say mindfulness is the major focus of working on your self-efficacy. So we need to really think about creating a conducive work environment to improve our self-efficacy. But when it comes to learners' self-efficacy, we have to create a system of thinking that they could possibly be, ready to remain open-minded, understand the nitty-gritties of situation. So they have to become a little more analytical in terms of understanding what they are, how they do things, etc. So for that, I always say learner diary plays a vital role. Learner diary is not just about giving instructions to their parents. No, it's also to write down what skills they have really learned today, what type of qualities they have today, what sort of appreciable changes that we see in their personality, their attitude, their character, their learning process, etc. And celebrate their learning achievements. That's very important. That's how you can work on someone's self-efficacy. Okay. And ensure that they get the right guidance. So that is going to really help you in a very big way. I hope this particular video has been useful to you. Wish you all success. If you want to know more about it, please feel free to interact with me. And if you are free, you can just log in to www.mangalaprathaban.in to know more about it. That is www.mangalaprathaban.in. Good luck to you. Bye bye. See you.